Court is calling 2022 CR 11862, State of Texas versus Alexander Castro. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Yeah, you asked for a case hearing after the state.
Defense? All right, are parties ready to proceed? All right, Deputy Laura, if you'll bring the jurors in, please.
All rise for the jury.
All right, everyone, please proceed. Please be seated. And I believe we are still on direct examination. Is that correct?
Yes, Judge.
All right, you may proceed.
Detective Orta, getting back to what we were talking to you about yesterday, did you make the scene out on 281 North on July 22nd of 2022?
Yes, sir.
And what were your duties when you went to the scene?
I helped out painting the road evidence, and also I checked Mr. Castro's eyes for, well, at the time to check if he was intoxicated.
And what test did you perform?
The horizontal gaze nystagmus.
And what is the horizontal gaze nystagmus test?
So it's a validated test, basically research done by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And what are you looking for in the horizontal gaze nystagmus test?
I'm looking for possible signs of intoxication.
And what is nystagmus? Can you explain that to the jury?
Yes, nystagmus is basically jerking in the eyes.
And well, do you have any examples to give to the jury?
So we all have nystagmus, but it's not easy to see with the naked eye. And it's basically what it does is like it has to do with something with the muscles of the eye, so the eye doesn't get tired. So horizontal gaze nystagmus, what it does is if someone's been drinking an alcoholic beverage or taking certain drugs, when we check the eyes, for example, for horizontal gaze nystagmus, what we have the person do at the time is follow a stimulus, which could be the tip of my finger or a pen, with their eyes only, without moving their head, keeping their head level. And when they're following this stimulus from side to side, if they haven't taken any alcohol or drugs, their eyes should follow as if the windshield is basically wet and you turn on your wipers when it's raining, right? They slide easily. So it's the same thing. They just gaze from side to side. When they have been ingesting either alcohol or certain drugs, we call it lack of smooth pursuit because they'll start jerking to the side as they're following the stimulus. It's not a smooth movement, but you'll see the jerking of the eyes as they gaze to the side.
How many clues are you looking for when you're conducting let's call it the HGN test?
Yes, there is a total of 6 clues. So it's three validated clues per in that test, which are lack of smooth pursuit, distinct and sustained nystagmus and maximum deviation, and onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. But in total you got to check each eye. So it's six total clues.
And how many times? So is it mostly you just moving the stimulus back and forth?
It should be you held the stimulus about 12 to 15 inches in front of the nose of the person and slightly above eye level so you can see their eyes clearly.
And how many times are you moving the stimulus past their eyes?
It's twice per eye. So you would start at the center, you check the left eye first. So when you start, you go left and then across and then you come back. That's one pass. And it should be about 2 seconds, 2 seconds to go out and back to the center.
And is that when you're looking for a lack of smooth pursuit?
Correct. That is for lack of smooth pursuit.
And what's the next clue that you're looking for?
The next one is distinct and sustained nystagmus and maximum deviation. So same thing, you start with the left eye, but you instruct the person to, prior to that, you already instructed the person to follow the stimulus with their eyes only, not to move their head and keep it steady and level. So on this one, what you do is when you move the stimulus to the side, you held it there for a minimum of 4 seconds. So the eye has to go all the way out to the left. And if that clue is present, you're gonna see distinct and sustained jerking as they keep looking to the side. It has to be distinct and sustained for a minimum of 4 seconds, or else the clue is not there. And you do the same thing for the eye. You do it twice on each eye.
And then what would the final clue be?
The final would be the onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. So on this one, you start again from the center, left eye. You check the left eye first, and you would move. It should take you about 4 seconds to get from from the center to basically just before the shoulder. What you're looking for is to get the eye at an angle approximately 45 degrees, before 45 degrees. So usually, if you hold the stimulus 12 to 15 inches in front of that person, it should be about 12 to 15 inches to the side. So as long as you can still see when you're checking a little bit of the white on their eyes on this side, you should be fine. Because if you go all the way out, then you're no longer looking for onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees, but you're doing the distinct and sustain again.
And you've been talking a lot about the clues and what you're looking for when you're performing the test. What do you do before you perform the test on someone?
You ask some medical questions, basically if they had any head injuries, they suffer from diabetes or any other kind of, they had any traumatic brain injuries. What we do on the test is prior to starting to look for those clues, I'll ask them I'll give them the instructions, look at the stimulus, don't move your head, keep your head steady. And the first thing that we do is while I'm looking at their eyes, I'm looking for equal pupil size. As long as if they don't have equal pupil size, that may indicate that they have a traumatic brain injury or some kind of medical illness. And then the other check that we do is we check for equal tracking. So just like we did on this thing for checking for lack of smooth pursuit when we haven't followed the stimulus, we're making sure that their eyes are following, both eyes are equally tracking the stimulus. If not, that may indicate a medical issue that they may have.
Is it possible while you're checking someone and while you're trying to qualify them that they could have resting nystagmus? Well, what is that?
It is possible. That would be again something that may indicate a medical issue. And basically, resting nystagmus is as they're looking straight ahead to the stimulus, you'll see their eyes jerking up and down, just a little bit, but it's visible to the naked eye. So that may indicate that, or some kind of dissociative anesthetic drug that they may have taken.
And here in this case, did you ever speak with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And did you ever ask him any questions about any possible alcohol consumption?
Yes, I did. I asked him how much he had to drink, and as well as how the crash happened, I believe.
Did he ever tell you how much he had to drink?
He mentioned 4 to 5 years.
And you said that he told you about how the crash happened. What did he say?
When I asked him, he said that he wasn't sure. He didn't see anything. He just felt his vehicle going up like in the air.
And when you performed the HGN test on the defendant, what did you observe?
I observed only 2 clues.
Which 2 clues?
The lack of smooth pursuit.
And so what does it mean when you only see 2 of the clues?
The person's not intoxicated.
Does it give?
Judge, can we approach very quickly?
Yes.
Can you speak in the mic, please? 1 second.
Pass the witness.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Are you ready?
No, just 1 second.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
Good to see you again. I've got a couple of questions I want to follow up on stuff you've spoken to the prosecutor about. So your role, I believe that you just testified that your role at the scene, because you're traffic investigation detail, right?
Yes, sir.
So your primary role at the scene was to help map out road evidence, is that correct?
Help out with the road evidence. Yes, sir.
So, and that involves,
Yes, there were vehicles that resulted hit because of his vehicle.
yeah, that's right, well, maybe, but that's not what I asked you. There are other drivers on the scene still, right?
Yes, sir.
Detective Martinez didn't ask you to check those out. They're either of those 2 gentlemen, Peter or Paul Martinez or Paul Stefano.
I don't remember the names, but yes, yeah, she didn't ask me to check anybody
didn't.
else.
She only asked you to check him.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you did that, but you were you aware that Detective Martinez had already checked him for horizontal gaze nystagmus?
Yes, she did mention that.
And were you aware, because they're called SFSTs, right? Standardized field sobriety tests, right?
Yes, sir.
And standardized, what does standardized mean to you, Detective?
It means that they need to be done the same way. So following the guidelines from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
That's right. And so they've got to be, so the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, is the government agency that has promulgated or brought these guidelines and training materials on how to investigate these crimes, right?
Correct, sir.
And so it's standardized. So standardized means it's done the same here as it is somewhere else, right?
Yes,
And so it's standardized if you do it or another officer does it, right?
yes,
So it's all done the same. So, because one of the things you spoke about was, you have to ask somebody what are called medical screening questions.
yes.
Yeah, and you mentioned those. Now, were you aware that Detective Martinez had already asked Mr. Castro some medical screening questions before you did your test on him?
No, sir.
You weren't aware that Mr. Castro had told.
I'm gonna object to testifying.
Were you aware, or did Detective Martinez tell you that Mr. Castro had said that he had a traumatic brain injury in April?
Again, gonna object to testifying.
All right, that'll be overruled. You can answer.
No, you weren't. So, and because the testimony earlier was that, because there are some things, right, that you do, everything you do is done for a reason,
Yes,
right? And the reason you ask medical screening questions is because there are some people who aren't good candidates for these tests, right?
if they have equal tracking and equal pupil size, no resting establishments, they are good candidates.
That's not, I know. But that's not, let's come back. So some people are not good candidates for these tests.
Yes,
For example, people who are over 65 years of age aren't good candidates for the balance test because they may not have good balance, right?
correct.
People who weigh over, or who are over 50 pounds overweight may not be good candidates for these tests, right?
Yes,
And if somebody were to say to you, look, you know, I'm on crutches, I can't balance, I've got an injury, they would not be a good candidate for these tests.
correct.
And if you did these tests on a person with that condition, it could compromise the validity. That's what the S stands for in standardized, right?
Validity?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And so I know that thank you, you weren't aware, but Mr. Castro we've established Mr. Castro, you didn't know Mr. Castro had told Detective Martinez he had a TBI.
I'm gonna again object to testifying.
All right, that'll be sustained. Re-ask your question in
Thank
a
you,
different
Judge.
way.
Will do. But your testimony right now was that you asked Mr. Castro medical screening questions.
And on that, I think I asked him about diabetes. I couldn't hear the answer because when I review, like I said yesterday, when I review that little I guess clip from Mr. Chavarria, Officer Chavarria's body worn camera, since I didn't have my camera on when I did this, when I checked his eyes. I did ask him about diabetes, but I couldn't hear because it was really loud, like the noise around it, and head injuries.
But you didn't write a report, right?
That's correct.
And you weren't wearing a body worn camera.
That is correct.
So, but you made some notes later on, so wait down the line, right?
Yes.
Can I approach you on it? very briefly?
Yes.
I'm gonna show you, I guess I should, you have a clean copy of this one? Jasmine, you have a clean copy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mind if I? Let me show you, I might have to mark it. You've got a clean copy?
Yeah.
We'll show you, a report. Is that your report, Detective?
Yes.
Let's turn to page, it's 7 pages long, right?
Yes.
I think it's page 5. Yeah, you got it, right, okay. So there's no mention in there that you asked.
Counsel,
Sorry, Judge.
would you like to mark it?
Thank you, Judge.
Sure.
I'm gonna mark it as defense, I think it's defense 3, Judge.
Yes.
So it's the same one, same page. Because you're a detective, you've got extra training over and above a normal patrol officer, right?
Yes.
So, we don't need to go over the need for you to put details in your report. You know all about that, right?
Yes.
And so you'd agree with me, this is the only document where you have put your actions down in writing about this incident.
Yes, sir.
And you don't mention in there that you asked medical screening questions,
No, sir. Like I said, that's from the video from Officer Chavarria.
but not yours, right? Because you didn't have one.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh,
That's
cool.
not from my video.
And oh yeah, so you would agree with me that if somebody does have a traumatic brain injury, that was one of the things you mentioned to jury, can affect whether or not someone has nystagmus. Not asking you whether you observed it or not. It's a yes or no, right?
Yeah, there's more to it, but yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Correct.
And you would agree with me that the NHTSA manual, you talk about NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, they mention that there are other reasons why somebody could have nystagmus, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned one of them, it could be someone's got resting nystagmus, it could have like a lazy eye or something going on with their eyes. And it basically, it's an involuntary jerking of the eye, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware of what rotational nystagmus is?
Yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me, rotational nystagmus is, it's almost as if someone's been rotated really quick and the workings of the inner ear is disturbed, and that can induce nystagmus, is that right?
The only way you would be able to see it is if you have a camera or you're looking at that person while they're rotating at a fast speed. Yes.
But it can happen.
I wouldn't be able to see it.
It can happen.
Yes.
It's in your training material.
Yes, sir. It could happen.
And there's so, and then what the NHTSA manual says is maybe someone who's involved in a rollover accident could display this. I'm not asking if you did, it's possible.
Well, I don't recall that specifically on the NHTSA manual. If you're saying rotational nystagmus, like I said, that's when the person is rotating at fast speed, the inner fluid's getting disturbed, but that would be while they're rotating.
Yeah.
So after the rollover, they shouldn't have any.
And that is what NHTSA calls, what you've just led into there, it's called post-rotational nystagmus, right? That's another one.
Correct, sir. Yeah.
And so you're correct. Rotational is like if you're rolled really quick, it can disturb your inner ear and make your eyes jerk, kind of, you know, if you're dizzy, right? And rotational is the longer lasting effects of such an incident, correct?
Post-rotational nystagmus will last for a few seconds after they crash, after the rollover.
And on the horizontal gaze nystagmus, there are 6 clues.
Yes, sir.
And these aren't, NHTSA says that a decision point is 4 clues, right?
Correct. The decision to arrest 4 clues or 6. I mean,
Or
out of
to
6
continue.
or the 6.
Or
Yes.
to continue to the next test is 4 clues, right?
Correct.
And you didn't do, the next test that you would do would be the walk and turn test,
Yes, sir.
and you didn't do that.
No, sir.
And and if you scored a certain way on that walk and turn test, then you would then do the 1 leg stand test,
Correct.
and you didn't do that one either.
No, that wasn't performed.
And you didn't arrest Mr. Castro
Correct.
as a result of your testing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions possible.
All right. Any further questions?
Just you, Judge.
Okay.
How long after the crash did you examine Mr. Castro?
That would have been at least, I'm not sure 100%, but it would have been at least 4 hours after the crash.
And so would you have seen either rotational nystagmus or post-rotational nystagmus at that point?
No, sir.
And isn't it true that if you observe 2 clues on the HGN test, that would indicate some consumption of alcohol?
Object to leading.
All right, that'll be sustained.
What would 2 clues on the HGN test indicate to you?
That the person has either been ingesting alcoholic beverage or taking certain drugs that could cause the nystagmus.
Nothing further, Judge.
Defense?
Very briefly, Detective, were you asked to test a woman called Shayna Alassel?
I'm going to object to relevance.
How's it relevant?
It goes towards causation, Judge.
I'm sorry, what?
It goes towards causation in this case.
All right. You can ask the question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Were you asked to test a woman called Shayna Alassel?
No, sir.
Okay. And Detective, do you remember what time you were at the scene?
No, sir. No. After 5 in the morning.
After five in the morning, and to the best of your recollection, do you remember what time approximately this incident came in? That, not when you went to it, when the accident happened.
I want to say about 2 in the morning.
So you went there about, did you say 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock? When did you go?
We got the call. Well, we realized we had to go to the scene. It was almost 5 in the morning when we got back to the office. So I'm gonna say I was there after 5 in the morning. I'm not too sure.
Okay, more than 3 hours after the accident.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Detective. Thank you, Judge. Possible.
Nothing from the state.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse from the state.
Yeah, no objection, Judge. Excuse me.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to until this case is concluded are attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you may step down. State, call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Detective John Doyle.
Judge, very briefly, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up.
Yes.
If you think you're talking too loud, you're not, okay?
No problem.
All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
John Doyle, Doyle.
State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, the detective, well, I guess it's the Sergeant Doyle now,
Now, yes.
but you changed, I guess.
Agencies, yes.
All right. Let's go back to, where were you working in, July, particularly July 22nd, 2022?
The night unit of San Antonio Police Department Traffic Investigations.
And when did you leave the SAPD, agency?
January of 2023.
And why did you leave?
I retired.
And how many years did you, serve in the SAP?
A little over 30 and a half.
And during that course of your time at the SAPD, did you go through specialized training and just training and updating training?
Yes. I was a detective for 23 years. I started off in sex crimes. I had a bunch of training related to that. Came to night traffic investigations for a short period of time. Started training then. Moved to night CID.
What is night CID?
All the daylight detectives go home. Then it was 6. And so from 6 until they come in the next morning, the night CID handled all the scenes that required a detective at night, except for traffic cases.
Okay.
And so we handled murders, robberies, rapes, whatever. And
What other divisions were you in?
night murders after that. Was there a year and a half. They eliminated that unit and I went back to traffic investigations, and that was in 2010. And I stayed there till I retired.
And traffic investigation, is that sometimes called PID?
It is.
And what does that stand for?
Traffic Investigations Detail. It's part of homicide. It's a detail within the homicide unit.
And what does that division investigate?
We investigate, or TID, I keep thinking of myself there, I was there a long time, investigates fatality crashes, hit and run crashes with injury, alcohol-related serious bodily injury, or fatality crashes.
And so pretty much anything to deal with something of seriousness, or the death or serious bodily injury involving vehicles.
Correct.
And do you have to go through specialized training in that division?
Oh, yes. I had, it's been long enough to, I think it was between 500 and 600 hours. It's been a bit, but it's over 500 hours of specialized training.
And is that just to become certified in that certain field, or can you describe to the jury why you had to take that many hours?
Sure. Part of it is become a crash reconstructionist. There's 3 classes that build up to you being a reconstructionist. There are 7 weeks of classes, all told, to get you to the point where you're a crash reconstructionist. Then I went to classes on the airbag control modules, being a analyst for and a technician for airbag control modules. I went to classes on Burla, which is downloading infotainment systems to get data from them. I became a drone pilot for the department and learned how to use the software used to map the scene using a drone. The department decided they wanted a helicopter unit to do all the drone flights, so didn't go into a lot of practice with it, but I was certified as a drone pilot for the department.
And so you mentioned one certified. Did you have to get certified in crash reconstruction?
Yes.
and you have to go through specialized, that specialized training, would you also include your experience in there? Like, let me ask you about your experience in crash reconstruction. How many scenes, or let's just say crashes, do you believe, and I know it'd probably be an estimate, that you have worked on in your career?
Thousands, because you have to include patrol as well.
What about?
On patrol, you do the initial investigation, but from TID, literally thousands. There were, it wasn't unusual, and this was one of those nights to have 5 scenes that you go to.
And so you're certified in reconstruction, and then also y'all use certain tools, like measurement tools, is that correct?
Yes, I've had training in, first it was the Sokia, and then later the Leica. It's surveying equipment that's been adapted to law enforcement use for crash reconstruction. But basically it's surveying equipment. And through the years, we've advanced from when I first started, you had to sight a prism. You had to look through the thing and the viewfinder and sight in the X on the thing to the prism to be able to take a shot. It later advanced to the point where you use robotic total station, and what it does is the total station follows the prism itself, and you're holding a pole with the prism and a data collector, and you're putting the whatever evidence that you're marking in the data collector. And what it does is it creates a scale diagram for the scene reconstruction.
And so I guess it's a little talking over a little bit of my head about that, but I mean, I've seen workers out in the field, like construction workers or something, and you see them holding, some guy holding the pole is in the middle of the field, and you see another guy across the field looking through something, and that's what you were speaking about earlier.
In the beginning, that's what we had to do. Now everyone either uses a robotic total station like we do, or one with GPS. We also have one that does GPS, but it's for a different purpose. It's for use with the drones. All surveyors now use GPS because you don't have line of sight issues. You can go anywhere a satellite can see you. So basically anywhere but a parking garage or under a bridge. Ours, what we still use for the most part is the robotic total station, where it follows you around. You have to have line of sight though. And what it's doing is it's collecting X, Y, Z, and is the math term, measurements, north, south, east, west, up and down. So like if there's a hill in the roadway, it measures that. And that's what a lot of the surveyors are doing out there. For example, road work, they're preparing the grades for that and everything. Same equipment. It's just adapted to take codes for use in crash reconstruction.
And I'll ask you, how many times have you used this equipment to map a crash scene?
Hundreds.
And so let's go to the night that why you're here today. It's July 22nd, 2022. I guess rather the early morning hours of that day.
Well, it was kind of late morning hours for us. Like I said, that day we had multiple crash scenes, and as we were about to leave, then Detective Martinez, now Sergeant Martinez, found that North Patrol apparently was still waiting for us to come to a scene, and we weren't aware that we were needed there. They called earlier in the shift, but at that point they didn't know exactly what they had, and they failed to call us back. So we called out there and found out that we needed to go out to 281, and I believe it was right around TPC to handle this incident.
And so you stated just earlier in your testimony that you had actually, you said several scenes that night. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so, yeah, I guess y'all had a busy night.
Yes.
And was there other fatalities that night?
As I recall, no other fatalities, just lots of other scenes, life-threatening crashes. I don't remember the exact details on all of them, but several life-threatening crashes that we were called to.
And so when you actually went out to the scene, 281 and near TPC Parkway, do you recall, what time it may be?
I think we got there roughly 6 a.m. Our normal shift ended, we worked from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. on the night shift. And we didn't find out about it until after our shift had technically ended. I believe we got out there around 6 a.m.
Around that time?
Roughly, yes.
I guess you travel in different vehicles. I mean, not everybody's getting there at the same time.
No, the sergeant went in one. We have a response vehicle. It's a F-450 pickup with a box with all of our equipment on the back. And I drove in a separate car.
And so when you arrived at this scene, is this in Bear County, Texas?
San Antonio, Bear County, Texas, yes.
Thank you. Were you the handling detective, or what we call the main detective, handling the scene?
No, the detective with the report responsibility was Detective Martinez. Again, Sergeant Martinez now.
And there's already been testimony that this accident happened around 2:21 a.m. in the morning. So if y'all arrived around 6, that's about 3.5 hours later.
3.5, 4 hours later, something like that.
And when you arrived at the scene, well, tell me this, what did you see at the scene?
They had the roadway shut down. When we arrived, found there were 3 vehicles involved. It was clearly a high-speed crash due to the damage to the vehicles and the distance
So you say
vehicles traveled.
Sorry, you say clearly a high-speed crash.
Yes,
Are you basing that on just your experience and training, or?
correct. Yes,
Okay, and I'm sorry, and you were stating something else when I interrupted you.
sorry. When you look at the damage to the vehicles and the distance the vehicles travel after impact, you can get a pretty good feel on high speed or not.
And so that's by actually standing there and viewing the actual vehicle.
Just one moment. Yes,
Just can we approach that?
yes.
Mr. Garrett, I can't hear you. Can you talk in the mic?
I'll allow you to take the witness on voir dire. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have you all wait in the back, and I will have you all back here at no later than 10:50. All right, and remember my previous instructions. Do not think about this case outside this room. Everything that you need to know about this case has come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right, everyone, please be seated. And defense, you wanted to take the witness on voir dire?
Thank you, Lauren.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Detective Sergeant.
Yes. Fine. Either one's fine.
I should use your proper rank. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the opinion you're going to give today. Are you here to give an expert opinion?
I would say yes.
Okay, and what is that opinion about?
In regards to this, whether or not it's how the crash happened, the speed, that sort of thing.
Are you here to, is the basis of your opinion essentially, does it come from your use of your equipment at the scene, the Leica?
Some of it, yes.
So, and you said it's the robotic station?
It's a robotic Leica robotic total
So,
station.
and that's different from the regular total manual station, right?
Right, a total station that would be manual would be the ones that I was referring to earlier, where you have to sight in and focus on the prism. And this one, the robotic part of it is the machine itself.
Excuse me, just one moment. Off the record for a moment.
You did some diagrams in this case,
I did,
and you're going to be testifying to the validity of those diagrams.
yes,
And did you make those diagrams using a Leica robotic station?
I did.
And you've already testified that you said from your training experience, right? That it was a high rate of speed crash, right?
The speed involved, or the crash involved high speeds, yes.
Did you do any energy analysis? In this case?
On this, no.
You did, okay. And that's what I want to judge. So you're not going to offer an opinion as to speed based on any crash math or skid marks or energy analysis that you did?
Well, I measured the skid marks and scrape marks and all that sort of thing, but I didn't do an analysis of it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Ones that you created. You didn't try and recreate it to test crash math against what you saw. You're just simply documenting what comes out of the Leica and the measurements to make the map, right?
Well, the map is used to do the speed analysis.
Yeah, they use your map to do the analysis, right?
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Judge, that ends my order.
All right,
We've got no
And
objection
so-
to this witness.
no objections.
Okay.
All right. Deputy Laura, if the jurors are ready, then we can bring them back in. Thank you. But parties, please remember, I don't know the facts of your case. So you'll have to let me know what you anticipate your challenge is to an expert witness.
Can you spell Leica for me and the other one?
Leica.
And the other one?
Uh,
So to,
SOKKIA.
it's okay.
KIA. It's Swedish.
So, yeah,
SOKKI, Swedish, yeah. I think the other one maybe too, Leica, it's definitely European, I don't remember. I think it's Swedish too. I guess they make all surveying equipment, I don't know. I'm sweaty already, I went up and down the
You should
stairs.
have
straight
been
down.
outside.
I know. That too.
It's like humid.
Yeah. This afternoon when it's in the sun, it's gonna be worse.
All right. And state and defense, make sure that with the court's rulings, with some of those exhibits where I ordered that certain things be redacted, just make sure that you all check them when we get to the point for deliberations, if we get to that point, that that's taken care of.
Yes, Sean. Judge,
Yes,
do we have time to go to the restroom?
yes.
I asked for you here. You're welcome.
Mhm.
I'm scared out.
And then is the detective with regards to the items downstairs, is the detective the next witness?
No, Your Honor.
Yes, that will need to be next because if I allow this into evidence, I want it to be done. I don't want the jurors to see them. Boy,
Judge, since he's running, can I run?
yes.
I'll be right back.
Well, I don't have- You don't have to picture what, but I mean, you were at the scene.
You'll be fine. Otherwise,
You would have marked it, but yeah, I'm going to go. No.
I'm speaking loud enough, are you okay?
You're speaking up
Okay.
for me.
Ready, Judge?
Yes, we're ready.
All rise for the jury.
All right, please be seated. State, you may continue.
I think my last question was, we were talking about being at the scene. And you spoke about actually seeing the vehicles and stating that about it being a high-speed crash, is that correct?
Right, seeing the damage to the vehicles, the distance vehicles traveled after impact, all that. I realized it was a high-speed crash.
And is that just by like observing the vehicles with the naked eye?
Yes,
And that's not doing math on it at that time, that's not doing measurements on it at that time?
no, what I ultimately did was map the scene so that we could get those measurements, so that could be done.
So, but just arriving at the scene and observing the scene and the vehicles themselves, because you stated, for one, do you recall the vehicles that were involved? Well, actually, may I approach you on that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm gonna show you what's been marked. State Exhibit number 4. These have already been entered into evidence. And I want to ask you if you remember this scene. Thank you. I know I gave you a stack to look through there, but you look through these photos, and these are the photos that were taken of the scene that night. And is that how you remember the scene?
They're accurate representations.
Also, I want to direct your attention to a couple of poster boards here. State Exhibit number 71. Is this also of the scene?
It is.
And obviously you see the HEB truck in the back, and then you have the Volkswagen in the back also, but this is the Honda Accord.
Correct.
And then also State Exhibit number 85, do you recall seeing this 18-wheeler HEB truck at the scene?
I do.
And then is there a truck behind there?
Yes.
And that's how you remember seeing the scene that day when you got there?
Yes. I remember those golf balls. They were everywhere.
Well, yeah, I think just let's let the record be clear on State Exhibit number 71. You notice a lot of golf balls in the back here. Is that right?
Yeah, they were everywhere.
They're everywhere, all over the highway.
Yes.
Now, Detective Doyle, at the time when you got there, you've spoken about measurements. You described the system or the devices, equipment that you would use to measure. What did you do at the scene at that point?
First thing we do is a quick walkthrough so that I know what is out there. The sergeant and detectives were busy painting it. It was really long, so it took a while. I think I helped them paint a little bit, final positions of vehicles, that kind of stuff. But I was looking see what evidence was out there, what scrape marks, what tire marks, all that kind of thing. Just looking at the scene in general, it's one of the first things you do is you go through and just look and see what's there, because you don't know until you look. And then what did you proceed to next after you did the initial walkthrough? Set up the total station. And then you spoke about painting. And I know that the jury's already seen some of these photos. It looks like there's spray paint or something on the ground, and also sometimes on a wall or something, and sometimes on a tire, and different colors. Can you describe to the jury why that paint was put on the ground and the walls and sometimes on the tires, and describe that to the jury of why that is painted that way? Okay, we when we have multiple vehicles involved, we use different paint colors for every vehicle. What you're marking is the evidence that's left, tire marks, scrape marks, all that sort of thing. And really more than anything else, it's to allow y'all to see it when they take the pictures. It highlights the evidence. It's basically what it's doing. And the different colors let you know that's this car, these marks are from this car, these marks from this car. When I'm going around and I'm mapping the scene, I'm not mapping the paint, I'm mapping the evidence that's there, that the paint is highlighting, so that when they take the pictures, it makes it easier for y'all to see. Okay, so you're saying you're not putting the device on the paint, you're putting it on the evidence? Yes, that's correct. And that evidence is either gouge marks or tire, I guess, treads or rubber that's left by the tires? It's tire marks left by the tires, scrape marks left by the vehicles, the area of impact, where the initial area of impact was, where the vehicle, the cord in particular, hit the wall, the final rest of the vehicles. The truck did all kinds of crazy stuff. It was flipping and sliding and doing all kinds of stuff. And you mentioned something about area of impact. Can you describe to the jury what that term means? Okay. in crash reconstruction, you learn real quick, you don't say point of impact because you may be a foot or two off, let's say. What you're given is an area of impact. It's where the pickup hit the cord, the first area of impact. And you'll see a tire mark that'll be wider. You'll see gouge marks in the pavement, particularly on asphalt pavement. That's what you would see at the area of impact. This is on concrete, so you don't see that as much. You'll see scrapes, not gouges, like you would see on pavement, because what happens when two vehicles hit is one of the vehicles, typically the one that's being hit, it's not the case in this one, will be forced down. And what it does is the undercarriage of the car will strike the pavement, in this case, the concrete. And you'll see those scrape marks. And the tire marks are always different there because of the forced downward force. And you'll see those marks, and that's how you know where it is. There's a secondary area of impact where a cord hit the wall, and a third area of impact where the truck hit the Volkswagen. I think it's an Atlas. I'm not positive. It's a Volkswagen. I think it's an Atlas. It's an SUV.
So in this particular case, you had area of impact, you had 3 total.
Yes, where between the truck and the cord in the wall, and truck and Volkswagen.
And I'm going to show you state exhibit number 25, which you've already seen up on the stand there when I asked you if you recognize these photos. But this is state exhibit number 25. What is painted on the ground right there?
Yeah, the area of impact, that's the first one.
That is the first one.
Yes.
So tell the jury, how do you know that's the area of impact?
First off, there's no marks prior to this. There's no roadway evidence prior to this. That tire mark there is a wide tire mark from the truck. It's kind of it's different than what you're going to see in most of the tire marks, except for where it's going sideways and flipping. But when they're going straight, it's a little bit different than the regular tire marks. And there's scrapes there that honestly don't show up very well in this because
Okay, you might have a better
the pavement
picture.
is gray. If you're on asphalt, you're always going to see like a chunk of pavement that's been taken out. But this is because it's concrete, it's so hard to get.
Right.
That doesn't happen unless it's in something
this-
real big.
I don't mean to talk over you. I know the court reporter doesn't want me to talk over, so I apologize for interrupting you. But again, this is where the pickup truck hit the Honda Accord.
Correct.
And I think you stated something just previously that before this, there was no marks.
There was no marks. There was no pre-impact braking, no evidence of the pickup swerving before, nothing like that.
So no marks.
Correct.
And why would it leave marks?
Like, let's say you're approaching what you know is going to be a crash, you slam on the brakes and it's going to leave pre-impact skid marks. So it'd be skid marks, a gouge, like regular straight skid marks, a gouge, and a strange tire mark, basically, for lack of a better word. And then everything that happened after the crash. Well, there was nothing before this.
So I'm going to show you what's marked state exhibit number 98. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes.
And what is that a picture of?
The same thing, just facing the other way more than anything else.
And so does it show any brake marks or tire marks or anything of indicating that the truck hit its brakes?
If you'll look, this right up by your thing, this tire mark is a little bit longer. So there, looks like there's pre-impact braking. Again, that's why we call it an area of impact. So it's right here somewhere. This is where the truck is reacting to it. That's where we know that that happened, that the impact had happened. So the area of impact may be a few feet back a little. But this is more in a mark that happened when the crash happened.
So after the crash happened,
Correct.
okay, and that would be a tire mark from the pickup truck,
Correct.
and that's off to the right of this photo. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask to enter state exhibit number 98 into evidence. Senator to defense for any objections.
No objection.
All right, State's Exhibit number 98 is admitted without objection.
Mayor Publisher,
Yes.
this is state exhibit number 98. Wonder how to use this someday. I don't know if it's better. Let's see if it's better with the light on. Sorry. I think this is what we're indicating here. You were speaking earlier about the area of impact here. And that this is the area of impact, not the point of impact, but that in that area, that's where it happened.
Yes, that's where we have the truck doing something to indicate that it's been involved in a crash. In this case, it's making the wide tire mark in that scrape. You can
And-
actually see a scrape here. You'll notice some of these pictures are better because we were out there so late. It's not night anymore, it's day.
It's
So
day.
the camera actually does significantly better in the day. You don't have to fight the settings adjusting for night. So you're going to see that some of these pictures are significantly better because they're during the day.
Okay. And so, for instance, state exhibit number 25, that's darker out there.
Absolutely.
And actually that is facing north. Is that correct?
Correct.
The way that like the direction of traffic would be flowing north.
That's correct.
And then state exhibit number 98 is actually facing south down to 81.
That's correct.
And this is during the day, but it does show that what you indicated and testified earlier, there's no braking, like any type of, like I call them screech marks or brake marks or tire marks. Is that correct?
Right.
And then you pointed this out to me when we were on the stand and on this photo, but there's some spray paint here and it shows some type of tire marks here. Explain to the jury what that is.
That's again, it's the tires from the truck leaving a mark on the roadway. And that's what's being marked there.
And I'll ask you, is that brake marks or is that after impact?
It's at impact, basically.
After impact.
Yeah.
Okay. So the truck had hit the Honda Accord and it caused these, the truck's tires to make marks.
Correct.
Thank you. Oh, here they are. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go back over here and I'll show it to you on the bigger screen.
Okay.
Now-
Glasses.
I'm gonna show you state exhibit number 28. I see there's a lot of stuff going on in this picture. Can you describe to the jury what's going on?
This is post-impact tire marks from the Accord. And what you're seeing is the vehicle is spinning as it's leaving these tire marks because you have a crossover of the tire marks. Just before it hits the wall, it's spinning.
And this is, it's just a closer view, state exhibit number 29. And it looks like I don't know who wrote this on the wall, but A012.
AOI too, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
And so that's where this Honda Accord in state exhibit number 71, it collided with the wall.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked state exhibit number 31. That's a little further back from that picture. And can you tell the jury, I see like what looks like little U's around the spray paint or something. What does that mean?
The end of the mark.
The end of the mark.
It's a bracket around the end of the mark is basically what it is.
And those tire marks were made by which car?
The Accord.
The Ford.
Yellow is the Accord.
Okay, I'm colorblind, so.
Yeah, I understand.
State exhibit number 32. It's sort of to the side there, but you see the area of impact, and then you also see those yellow marks off to the right that you stated. Now, I believe this is the orange marks over here, is that right?
And that's the truck.
That's the truck. And again, what does that little U, orange U mean on there?
Same thing. That's where it begins
That-
or ends, depending on how you look at it.
I also see that there's an object in the middle of the roadway there. Do you know where that article or that object came from?
It looks like it's from the truck because the Accord is silver. Can't say for absolute certain because sometimes the outside is one color and the inside's another, but I believe it's a part of the truck.
Okay. And then state exhibit number 33 is just another picture that shows down further. And in the background, you do see the other vehicles. Is that correct?
Yes, the Accord on the right, closer the pickup farther down, and way off on the right is the Volkswagen.
I'm also going to show you what's marked state exhibit number 39. What does this indicate?
Scrape.
What does that mean?
This is where the truck, and again, I said the truck did some strange stuff. Well, this is as it's getting sideways, and it flipped on its side right there, and is leaving scrape marks on the pavement and the truck, of course.
So from where this picture shows where it went, I guess, scraping on its side, it ended up way over here
Yes.
still. I want to show you what's marked state exhibit number 43. I know it's sort of hard to see on this. What does that indicate right there?
Same thing, scrape. The dots are actually they're actually tire marks as well, I believe. It's probably pre being completely painted, if that makes sense.
I'm going to show you what's marked state exhibit number 48. What does this indicate here?
That's another one of those where the tire is sideways.
And it looks like that it sort of curves off right here. Is that right?
Right, that's another clue to speed is how straight things are. Okay, so you had the truck hit the Accord. The Accord curved off like this. It's not going that fast. The truck, if you look, almost continues in a straight line. So it continued through the impact in a straight line. As the truck slows down, now it's not a straight line, it's a curve as it's sliding around to a stop.
As it's sliding around.
Yes.
I'm looking for, where's my area of impact? That just have 1 second.
Yes.
So all these marks on the road that you colored in, or not you colored in, but it was painted in, describe the scene that night. Is that correct?
They're again highlighting the evidence so that A, you can see them, and B, the CSI can see them and take pictures.
And then you also map the area with actual the devices and equipment that you spoke of earlier. Is that right?
Correct.
And then did you use those marks and those measurements to make sketches of the scene that night?
I did.
I'm going to show you what's been marked. State exhibit number 1 is 94, and then also 95, and also 96.
It's a little bit closer. It zoomed in.
It zoomed in, so 97. So that's just a zoomed in version.
Yes,
Okay.
the scale is inch at 40 foot.
Okay. And these are sketches that you made for this case from that night.
Yes.
Your Honor, state is asking to enter state exhibit number 94, 95, 96, 97. I've tendered to defense previously to see if there's any objections.
All right, states exhibits 94, 95, 96, and 97 are admitted without objection. Yes,
And may, I guess Sergeant Doyle
Yes.
step down?
yes.
Thank you.
And defense, you may move about the well.
First, I'm going to show you actually state exhibit number 95. Just describe to the jury what we're looking at here.
That's the roadway and all the evidence that I mapped. This is a concrete wall. overhead sign, concrete wall, tire marks, and they're color coded on my diagram, just like they are on the roadway.
And one thing I want, what you said, a road sign right
Yes,
here,
it's an overhead sign.
overhead sign. Can you turn around and look at state exhibit number 78?
That is it.
And that is across the top, there is the road sign.
Correct.
And that is this road sign right here.
That's correct.
Now, when you actually arrived at the scene, was this truck still there?
Yes.
And where was it located on this diagram?
Right in here.
Right in there. So tell me, how many lanes are right here that lane of travel?
Okay, it looks weird, and this is only 2 lanes, and what's happening here, and why do you see these jagged corners like this? The roadway is under construction. Now, I think it's 4 lanes, something like that. But that night, there's only 2, and there's really, really wide shoulders, for lack of a better term. And the roadway is different. I think this is an entrance ramp or something. I'm not exactly sure, but that's why the walls are the way they are. But there's only 2 lanes of travel here. It's narrowing down to where the highway as it is now ends, and it goes back to where it's like a 2-lane, not elevated highway.
Like the old road.
The old
Okay.
281.
And so if you travel this area, you knew that it was under construction and that it was changing back into just the old road.
The old road, correct.
And so please tell the jury what this down here is and describe it to them.
Okay, that's where the truck struck the Accord, the initial impact.
Initial impact. And that's what we saw in the picture just previously.
Correct.
And then describe what this location of your AOI2.
That's where the Accord hits the wall. And you can see the turn marks are crossing over, it's spinning as it's hitting the wall and sliding to a stop.
Now, and going back here, was that Honda Accord, was it in a lane?
Yes,
And which lane was it in?
the right,
So it was within its lane.
yes.
And that's what you see from the pictures. And the
Yes.
evidence at the scene,
And the damage to the vehicle.
the damage to the vehicle. And so then let's go up here. I couldn't find my picture, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask you, what's AOI3,
That's where the truck hits the Volkswagen.
the Volkswagen?
All right.
And let me make sure we have a picture of the Volkswagen.
Say, I think it's an Atlas. Here for Volkswagen.
I'm gonna show up here, too, if you don't mind staying there, just looking 69. And also 68. And this evidence has already come in that it is an Atlas. So
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay.
And in fact, you have it here
Oh,
marked.
yeah. Sorry.
That-
I'm looking at the diagram, not the
Right.
labeling, sorry.
So
Go
area
slow.
impact 3. Tell me what, and describe to the jury what happens there.
Basically what happened there is a little weird. The truck had been sliding and rolling, and what it did is it came down like this on the back of the Atlas. It's a strange impact. It's not one that I can honestly say I've seen before, because the bumper of the Atlas is pretty much intact, but to the, I don't know whether it's a 2-row or a 3-row. I think it's a
There was-
3-row.
There was evidence that came in by testimony that it was 3-row.
Well, it was crushed to the back of the 2nd row, so it was crushed like this. It's squashed down. It's really strange.
So in your experience, in your 32 years of, well, at least 32 years SAPD, you've never really seen a sort of a crash like that.
Not with damage like that, no.
And is this to scale?
It is.
So that if you use this marker here, you can determine from area of impact 1 to area of impact 3. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's where the software comes in. I mean, you can sit here with a ruler and an inch is 56.73 feet. You could, mark an inch and, just measure and do it that way, or we could just go to the software and go from this point to that point and it tells us.
So to indicate how far it is.
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna flip this around to show you what state exhibit number 94. And it's a little different, it's the same diagram, but it has a lot of different dots on it. Can you describe to the jury what those dots represent?
That's where I took a shot, is what we call it. Let me describe the equipment, okay? The total station is a tripod and it has a, I don't know, I guess is the best way to put it. And it moves as you move. You're holding a pole that has a prism on the top with crosshairs. Back in the day, I was saying you had to sight through through there and focus it, and you had to focus it on the X within the viewfinder with the crosshairs in the prism. Well, it does that for us, technology. So it follows us around. I'm holding this pole with a data collector. It has a level on it. So I'll go to a portion of evidence, level the pole, take a shot, and then I label it whatever it is. Tire mark 1. And if you look at my how I did it, I did like tire mark 1 Accord, tire mark 2 Accord, tire mark 1 pickup, tire mark 1 Volkswagen.
And that's what these dots represent. And you can't really hardly see it, but it would have those numbers on there. Is that right?
Yes, I took a shot at each one of those points.
I'm going to show you what's marked state exhibit number 97. And I'll briefly go over that because it's pretty much just the same map, but zoomed in. Is that correct?
Yes, the scale on this is an inch and 40.
And so it's indicating the Honda Accord where it was found, and then also the resting spot of the Chevy Silverado with the license plates on each of them. Is that correct?
Yes, basically this is the scene. If you look at this other one, the reason why I did it was to give you context.
Can you get this, please? Speaking to.
Okay, was to give you context so that it's not just a straight stretch of 281, it's this stretch of 281 with this sign. This is my context. So that when this roadway changed, which it certainly did, that sign is still there. So you can go from this sign to there and you know exactly where you are. So that's why it's a larger scale here. It's because it's giving me this point of context. That one is the scene without the sign, because you know where the context is. I'm just zooming in to help you see the scene better.
And it shows the tire marks. Is that correct?
That's correct. And you can erase the points to make it look clean. But that's the difference between the two. You can also label it and there'll be the points. This one is numbers. And you can also label it with what it is. It'll say like tire mark Accord, but it starts getting really weird when you get it when there's so many points like this. So I'll print one, but generally it's not as useful to y'all because it looks like a jumbled mess.
And for instance, state exhibit number 96 is another where you actually can see some of the numbers and what you actually marked it as. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. You can take a seat. I wanted to show you what's been marked state exhibit number 99. And I think you were mentioning something just previously here about measurements and everything and marking them.
Yes, this is the measurement data log.
And can you tell the jury what that means?
Okay. What it is it's giving me the measurements, north, south, east, west, and the elevation. Because when you're setting up the scene, I take out a measuring tape and I measured the total station. It's got a little line on it. And I measured the height of the total station. And the bar that has the prism on it with the data collector that I'm holding, it has height marks. So I enter the into the total station. The total station is 4 foot 8 inches off the ground. My prism is 5 feet off the ground. I mean, it's almost always 6 feet. You try to get it as low as possible because again, every shot I take, you think about it, how many shots there were, it has to be level each and every shot. And that's part of why. It also gives you an elevation. So it gives you a north, south, east, west, and elevation. So in math terms, X, Y, Z. So if you're creating I don't remember the right word in math, it basically a diagram, you would be able to do the same thing, plotting these X, Y, Z. We didn't do elevation on this one because it wasn't as critical, but this measurement log tells you the relative elevation compared to the first shot. The first shot is 0, 0, 0, and that's where the total station is.
And so that's in a sense like the legend for the dots on the maps here or on the
That's
sketch.
exactly what it is. Number one, the first one is the total station itself, and all these other points are in relation to where the total station is. So it can tell you the distance from the total station. And that's how it gives you a scale diagram.
So this time, Your Honor, the state would advise to enter state exhibit number 99 in the evidence. We'll consider the defense for the objections.
Yes.
Just